Hello and welcome back to Fur, Fins, and Feathers. Our guest is Dr. Nuno Carreiro, who is going to continue our discussion with his dealings with being a veterinarian and all the adventures that he's enjoyed in his fascinating career. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. It's great to be here.
So we talked about the ponies in Virginia. Now you've also brought students to Central and South America?
That's right. So I guess maybe I should just back up and say that while working as a veterinarian on the Eastern Shore of Virginia, I also developed really a passion for teaching. And so when I transitioned from Virginia back up to Massachusetts, I was looking for opportunities to teach. And after working at Anchor Animal Hospital for a year, I was offered an opportunity to work at Becker College as a veterinarian and teacher there. And I spent 6 years at Becker, where whatever I'm doing as a veterinarian, as a teacher, I want to engage students as much as possible. At Becker College, I got to teach surgical skills and anesthesia skills to students. We teach them these skills in a very controlled environment, very easygoing environment. And all the tools and the equipment that we have is it's top notch. It's the best in the world.
Unfortunately, Becker has since closed, hasn't it?
It has. So unfortunately, Becker announced this year that they closed. Unfortunately, a lot of small colleges all across the country and in Massachusetts have struggled to deal with this pandemic. A lot of small colleges are dependent on tuition. So they're 90-95% dependent on student tuition. And then when the pandemic hit, due to the costs, due to students, some students maybe decided to defer a year. Some students decided not to really come back. Anyway, it's a struggle for small colleges when they're so dependent on tuition, and Becker announced that they could no longer continue, which is unfortunate because they have an over 200-year history here in the state. But it was a great program. The animal science program was great, and it was where I really honed my skills as a teacher. And when teaching students these veterinary skills, they had a veterinary technician program, we teach them the gold standard. What I like about involving students with other types of veterinary work is that they get to learn how to use their skills in an environment where they may not have the resources that are readily available here in the United States. So I do like to take them. I took students down to Nicaragua and Ecuador, where we work with local veterinarians and local communities to offer medical care to their animals. So whatever they bring to us, cats, dogs, horses, especially in Nicaragua, horses, the people there really rely on their horses for transportation for themselves. Transportation of goods, so whatever they are selling, whatever they need to bring to market, you'd be surprised how much a horse and carriage gets done in Nicaragua versus a car or a truck. These horses are animals and they need veterinary care in order to keep the longevity of their lives. To keep them as healthy for as long as possible, they need veterinary care, which is a scarce resource in certain countries. And it's, sometimes it's a scarcity of income. People cannot afford to bring their animals to a veterinarian. Other times it's a scarcity of access. Even if they want to bring an animal to a veterinarian, there's no veterinarian around. So we partnered with a group called World Vets, and they work, again, this is very important when doing international work. You want to be where the people want you to be. You want to know what the needs are of the community. You want to partner with the community. And That's how World Vets, and this is how we approach it, is to work with local veterinarians to provide care that's needed. So this, again, I really take a lot of joy in doing these trips because I involve students. These are students that sometimes it's their first time on an airplane. Sometimes it's their first time traveling overseas. So they get to dive into a new culture, a new environment. They get to learn a little bit of a new language. We're not there for too long, but we get to learn some Spanish. In fact, we get to learn Spanish even before the trip. We practice some Spanish with each other. We get there, we get to meet the wonderful people. The local people are always so welcoming.
And very hospitable.
Very hospitable. And the one thing, too, that students really get to see is that the common humanity that we share. One of these things being our love for animals and what the human-animal bond means, not just for Americans, but for people everywhere all over the world. And even though they might be different views on how to treat animals, that these people love their animals. In fact, when we set up to provide medical care, we often will set up, like, say, at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'll be there all day. People are there lined up. I mean, you can see people lined up they're lined up for a couple hours just to get a vaccine for their dog, a rabies vaccine for their dog. They will stand in line for 2 hours to get that done. So what it shows students is that people care about their animals. Maybe there's low resources, maybe they can't afford it, but it doesn't mean they wouldn't get the care if it was accessible to them. Not only that, but they also get to practice what they've learned in school. So they get to practice to restrain animals properly while they're getting vaccinated. They get to do their vital signs, listen to a heart rate, get a respiratory rate, do abdominal palpation, do a physical exam. They get to practice what they've been learning in school, and to the benefit of the animal and that pet owner too. So that's what I love about engaging students in these trips.
Now, these are all undergraduates at UMass?
Well, this was while I was at Becker. I have just transitioned to UMass, and
Okay.
I hope to plan and continue to engage with students on these trips. Of course, over this past year, I've had to we've had to stop the trips over the summer because of the global pandemic, but I'm always planning. I'm always planning for the next trip and hope to engage undergraduates in the future.
Talk about the UMass animal science programs.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just transitioned to UMass Amherst this past year. I'm an alumni, so it's great to be back in the place that really supported me in my career, where I am now as a veterinarian. The animal science program has grown. We offer an animal science major that has 3 concentrations, and you can think of them as tracks. Depending on the student's interests, they can choose a concentration in animal management. So that deals more with the production aspect of animal science. And UMass really focuses on the large animal aspects, such as cows, goats, sheep, when it comes to animal management. And then students can choose to a concentration in animal biotechnology. So that's more the research end of things. And living in Massachusetts, when it comes to biotechnology companies, Massachusetts is the big hub. There are so many biotech companies. There are so many opportunities for animal science students to work for biotechnology companies if they're interested in the research route. Probably some of the best paying jobs for an undergraduate in animal science right away would be in biotechnology, right here in Massachusetts.
And they're all based in the Boston area and beyond.
Boston,
But in Massachusetts?
all over Massachusetts. Of course, Boston is going to be a big hub, but also Worcester. People don't think about Worcester very much. I think sometimes it's like the second child. But Worcester is really up and coming city, and there are many biotech companies even in the Worcester area. So central Massachusetts is also a big hub. The other concentration that is within the animal science major at UMass is equine studies. So if you have a particular interest in horses, how to manage them, how to care for them, the science of horses, then that major is there for you. Now, a lot of students that come into UMass, they really have that dream of becoming a veterinarian. So we do have a pre-vet major. However, you cannot come in as a pre-vet major. You have to qualify to become a pre-vet major. So you come in as animal science, you take 10 courses, 10 qualifying courses, and if you do well in those courses, then you can apply to become a pre-vet major. So that's an option. And our newest major would be the veterinary technology. So think of it as veterinary nursing. So in the human field, you have doctors, you have nurses, they complement each other, right? Part of the same team. In veterinary medicine, we have veterinarians and we have veterinary nurses or veterinary technicians. That is also a major option at UMass.
There is not, there isn't a vet school in Massachusetts, is there? A state vet school?
Not a state. Of course, Tufts University is private. Is a private university, but they're basically our veterinary school here in Massachusetts.
There is a veterinary school in Vermont, isn't there? No?
No.
It's an undergraduate?
It's an undergraduate. University of Vermont is an undergraduate program. I mean, they have graduate programs, but PhD, not.
Yeah, the PhD programs.
Not DVM or veterinary programs. There are 50 states, but there are only about 31 vet schools. So you can do the math, and not every state has a vet school. There's a new one that just opened up in New York City, actually. So I think that brings us to 31 vet schools all over the country.
Very good. So talk about your experience as a small animal practitioner.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that. I spent 7 to 8 years as a general practitioner. And I guess I would be what I like to call myself a general practitioner, but you get to see small animals, large animals, anything in between. And then I moved to Massachusetts, and when I worked at Anchor Animal Hospital, that hospital focuses mostly on small animal. What I like about being a small animal practitioner is that I'm essentially the family veterinarian, so I get to know a lot of people. And this is something else that I think prospective veterinarians or students thinking about becoming veterinarians, they should keep in mind, is that you have to love to work with people just as much as you love to work with animals. I know some people would say, well, I want to be a veterinarian because I don't want to work with people. And that's absolutely incorrect. Because guess what? Somebody brings that dog or that cat for you to examine, there's a person attached to that dog or cat, and you have to be able to engage with that pet owner, that client. You can be the best clinician in the world. You know all the treatments, you know exactly what to do. But half of treating is gaining the client's confidence, their trust, so that they follow through with what your advice is. And it's when they follow through with your advice that the animal benefits and the treatment follows through. And that's a team, right? It's the veterinarian, the client, the animal. Everybody has to be on board. But that's what I loved the most about private practice, was working directly with clients. You get to know their family unit. You get to know their pets. You get to see them grow up from puppy to teenage dog to old dog. You know, you get to deal with all the issues that come up. You get to deal with all the joys that come up. Not only that, but beyond the animal relationships, you have the relationship with the family. So you know, they may have kids themselves. You might see those kids grow up, go on to college, get married. So I really enjoy that. In fact, you know, I would, for a while after leaving private practice, I would still get Christmas cards from clients, or Facebook messages from clients, just, you know, thanking me. I would get messages, you know, from clients, you know, if I had seen their dog for a long time and it did pass away, they would follow up with me and just say, hey, you were his vet for like 7 years, just wanted you to know. So that's the kind of bond that really kept me going in private practice.
And that's very important, because a lot of everybody, not some, but everyone, forms a strong bond with their pet.
That's right. And just about every practice I worked with, you know, we kind of had that saying in the back of our minds, you know, we treat your pet as a member of the family.
So where is your career going to be going?
Well, right now I really enjoy teaching. I enjoy what I'm doing at UMass. It's a little bit different pace than it was at Becker College, but I see the opportunities there. It is a research institution, so we are involved in advancing medical and scientific research. I will be teaching small animal nursing. I'll be teaching research animal management, where we teach students how to take care of rats, mice, guinea pigs, rabbits, those smaller mammals. I enjoy teaching. I see myself teaching long term, but I'm also a clinician. I'm also a veterinarian, so I'm always looking for opportunities to engage with students in a clinical setting, whether it's taking them overseas or whether it's working within our own communities. Of course, continuing to take students down to Chickenteague to work with the ponies down there. But that's where I see myself right now, is as a veterinarian who's also a teacher for the next generation.
Very interesting. I am very interested. I have opened up some interaction with some of the kennel clubs. They are forming a couple of kennel clubs in Ponta Delgada.
Oh, really? Right.
Yes, they're having dog clubs, and they're bringing in breeds, unusual breeds, and they're having dog shows now in the Azores, primarily in Ponta Delgada. And someone has mentioned to me, they said, on one of your shows, we should have you come and speak. I guess they will be able to translate for me, but I'm sure most people on the islands are now speaking English.
Yeah, especially the newer generation.
And they're having dog shows.
Yeah, so a lot of the new generation speak English.
And I said, I would love to come and speak and have an interaction and a dialogue with the Azorean dog fanciers with us.
I think that's great. It's a wonderful opportunity. I think the communities here in southeastern Massachusetts and the Azores have had a strong connection, a strong bond, and it's just something else that I think would continue to develop.
I'm kind of excited about something like that.
That's great.
Very good. So you've got a busy, now you will be also, you teach, you practice. How many do you monitor students in their practice?
Yes. So I teach 2 to 3 courses per semester. So we're gearing up for the fall semester, which we're hoping everybody will be back face-to-face. I think students have missed being face-to-face, especially in a laboratory setting where you have to do the hands-on skills. So so some of my classes are as few as 15, some of them 40 students, somewhere in there is the amount of students that I
And you
that I
work
teach.
with them in individual groups, small groups?
Yep, that's part of what the laboratory setting is to make sure that students have an opportunity to work in smaller groups and have a more individualized attention when they're learning, especially new clinical skills when working with animals.
Very good. How can people support programs at UMass and at Bristol Aggie?
Bristol Aggie? Well, I would say
Financially, maybe.
certainly financially, but even just taking that step to get to know these institutions, get to know Bristol Aggie. I know every year they have a fall show where they open up the school to the public. Go see what your local community is doing, what the students in our local community are doing at Bristol Aggie. Go to the fall show, get to see the school, get to know the programs, and maybe there's a program that really interests you that you would want to support more directly. Not only financially, but if you have, a prospective student, encourage them to look at the programs. Same thing at UMass. Come take a look at UMass. It's your flagship university in Massachusetts. Come take a look at what we're doing there, how we are. We are very proud of what UMass stands for in Massachusetts and how it represents Massachusetts to the rest of the country. Some of the research that is being done there to advance not only animal health, but also human health. Come take a look for yourself, look at the programs, and if there's a program that really speaks to you and you want to donate to them, there's always opportunities to do that. People are welcome to contact me. If you want to put up my email, it's
It will be up there.
ncarreiro@umass.edu. So I invite you to reach out if you have questions. If you want to come for a visit and tour our facilities, they're more than welcome to.
And that's very important that we have continued support of these programs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you have a favorite pet?
You can probably tell, but I've always loved horses. That's why no matter where my career takes me, I always...
Did you have a horse growing up?
No, I didn't. And, growing up in Fall River,
That's true.
You're a little bit limited, but that's why I loved Bristol Aggie, because I got to see horses every day there. I can go see horses every day on the farm at UMass. And of course, love my Chincoteague pony work. So I still keep that horse work because I love those animals.
Were there horses at Colorado State?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They have, Colorado State has one of the best equine reproductive programs in the country. So people bring their horses to be bred all the time there. And so seeing the babies born is like one of the most intriguing, favorite, exciting things.
Exhilarating experience.
Exactly. And of course, they always like to be born somewhere after 10 p.m. So that's when you get
Or in the
called.
middle of the night.
Yeah, exactly. Middle of the night, early morning is when everything is quiet. Which, by the way, interesting horse fact, horses is one of those species where they can put off giving birth for about 24 hours. So if they're ready to give birth, but there's chaos, they don't feel like it's quiet enough, they can hold off. So that's why oftentimes they're born when it's nice and quiet at 2 in the morning, because they can do that. They can hold off for a few hours. And that is something that has developed for the survival of the species, right? Because horses are a prey species. So in the wild, they had to wait until it was safe to give birth. And so that's why they developed this ability to wait a few hours if they need to, so that the babies are not in danger if there's a predator nearby.
So at UMass, you have ponies too?
Yeah, we have horses. Yes.
Horses? Any ponies like Shetlands or?
No. I'd say we mostly have warm bloods and Morgan horses.
Okay.
So the Morgan breed is one that was developed here in the Northeast. It's
a beautiful breed.
Yeah. So we still have some Bay State Morgans at UMass.
Very good. So we have really come the full circle here and talked about a lot of other issues. Is there anything else you would like to talk about?
I just want to thank you for having me on the show. Like I said, I'm passionate about talking about educating about animals and agriculture. So I encourage anyone that wants to reach out to reach out. I love teaching. I love engaging with students. If there are high school students with questions about their profession, I would love to talk to them more about it. It's the veterinary profession. It can be exciting. It's never dull, never boring. It's challenging to get there. And it can be stressful at times. If you were to ask me 20 years ago, I would say, yeah, I think anybody could be a vet. Honestly, looking at now, I don't think it's for everyone, but
it takes a special person.
Well, I think people have to look at themselves and say, is this the right profession for me? And this is what I love about teaching, is that I can guide students that are interested in the profession. I can guide them in that decision-making process. It may be for you, it may not be for you, but there's so many other opportunities to work with animals. And I think that's sometimes what students forget. They have their mindset so much on becoming a veterinarian that there are so many other opportunities to work with animals. It doesn't have to be the medical side.
And I am just told that we are ending the second segment. We'll have to have you back again because it's been fascinating.
Well, I would love to be back, and thank you again for the invitation.
I really enjoyed our two segments together. It was great to see you. I have to say personally, I am very proud to see your journey and witness your journey.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
And thank you for sharing all this wonderful information on fur, fins, and feathers.